Tonight I have to start by teaching you two rabbinical school words. Some of them, the first one you may have heard of before. The first one is the word gematria. We've talked about gematria in the past. Gematria, here we go. Boom. Nope. Are you on? On? Yeah. Do I need to click? Or we'll see. We'll see. All right, so gematria. Gematria is a Hebrew game. Aleph equals 1, Bet equals 2, Gimel equals 3, Dalet 4, and through that, when you can either pick a number and then find interesting words, or take the word, find the numbers that it makes, and make interesting mystical connections to it. That's the word gematria. Nod your head if you kind of understand. If you're really confused, don't worry. It'll make sense later, or it won't, and that'll be fine too. So, the second word, not a Hebrew word. If you learn this word, you get 4 extra rabbinical school points when you enter, if you have it in your pocket already. That word is the word tetragrammaton. And I'm just going to say, because I know the word tetragrammaton, and now you know it too. Tetra means 4, grammaton means something else. The tetragrammaton is the 4-letter ineffable. That's another rabbinical school word for you. No one else in the world says ineffable. The 4-letter ineffable name of God. It's God's name in Bible, Yud, He, Vav, He. You can't say it because all the letters are vowels and consonants. You can't utter it. But we've done this before a little bit. If you are an Indiana Jones fan, Jehovah is spelled with an I. You got it from this, Yud, He, Vav, He. You could say Yehovah. That's not really how we say it in our tradition. We say Adonai because we can't say it. But the word itself, when we look at it, we hear at one moment when God is introducing God's self to Moses, God says, Ehyeh asher ehyeh. I will be what I will be, which is a beautiful idea, and I have no idea what it means. But it's this beautiful connection to the verb to be. And when we look at God's name, it looks kind of like the verb to be, in some mush of past, present, and future tense kind of garbled up together. That God's name is as if eternity. And when we do the gematria, you remember what that one was? We did that first. Of the tetragrammaton, 10 plus 5 plus 6 plus 5, which equals 20. Good work, Benjamin. 26 is 26. So the number 26 in Jewish tradition, boop. Zoe, you're just going to do it, I think. It's not playing nicely. Boop. All right. Number 26 becomes it's kind of like mystically important number in our tradition because it's the number associated with the ineffable name of God. And the reason I'm starting here, a little moment of personal privilege, this Shabbat, not this English calendar date, but in the Torah cycle, this Shabbat is the 26th anniversary of my bar mitzvah Torah portion. Zoe, here's a picture of me at my bar mitzvah. I have a whole photo album. If you're nice and you promise to behave yourself, I'll show you the rest of the pictures another time. It's the 26th anniversary of my bar mitzvah, which feels poignant. It's this moment of past, present, and future kind of mushing together. And as I was reflecting on the day, for me it was Parshat Bechukotai. This year it's a double portion. Don't worry, it's fine, same Torah portion. Bechukotai is the very last Torah portion in the book of Leviticus. Zoe, poof. This is when God gives it's just another picture of me at my bar mitzvah reading. This is me reading my Devar Torah or something else. No, I was not outside. Temple Sinai in Rochester, New York has a particularly beautiful sanctuary. Maybe someday we'll all go on pilgrimage to Rochester, visit Temple Sinai. I'll take you all out for a garbage plate. You don't know this, but you can't wait. You're very excited for it. Anyway, so I was thinking about Bechukotai, and my mom, who's I think watching on Facebook usually, hi mom, she's about to write or has already written Shabbat Shalom from Rami and me in the comments. Hi mom, hi dad. My mom lovingly, Zoe, next one, kept my Devar Torah. For some reason, it was printed on a green piece of paper, and I still have that green piece of paper pasted into the photo album from the bar mitzvah. So I read over, again, that Devar Torah I gave. And part of what I spoke about, I still remember speaking about it, was I spoke about my grandpa, Zoe. My grandfather is a Holocaust survivor. That's Pierre. He's wearing a tie that has a picture of the globe on it. He was a travel agent. Pierre's World of Travel. All the Jews in Rochester planned their Israel trips and their cruises with Pierre. My grandfather was a travel agent, but he was a Holocaust survivor. He was born in Berlin in 1933. Not a great time to be born as a Jew in Berlin. He was interviewed for the Shoah Project. It wasn't until 2018 that I actually watched the video. I was nervous about it. I needed some distance from it, but I watched and heard him share his testimony. Maybe someday we'll watch together. It's on a DVD if we can find a DVD player. Kevin will find us one and figure out how to hook it up. And part of what I talked about, what is like it as a 13-year-old to be the descendant of Holocaust survivors. As I think I shared with you my first High Holy Days here. My brother and I were the little kids who lit a candle at Yom HaShoah services at the JCC. We had really ingrained it within us the mantra of never again. We had ingrained within us the idea that we can't allow the world to descend into autocracy and demagoguery. I didn't have those words as a kid, but I knew the fear of what could happen when people become uncaring and extremism drives politics, policy, and culture. And I talked about that. I talked about Holocausts on May 8th, 1999. I talked about the lessons my grandparents tried to teach us. And I remember in that moment feeling like these stories of anti-Semitism were of the past. They were my grandparents' stories of Berlin and Kiev, of my dad growing up the lanky Jewish kid in Rochester, New York. Those weren't really my stories. I knew that it existed. I was aware of it, but the mission was something different. The mission was to ensure that the world didn't descend there again. I looked back, I mentioned Kosovo in my sermon, in my Devar Torah. I think it's possible my mom added Kosovo to my Devar Torah, but she likes to give me credit anyway. That was the message, but in looking back 26 years ago, it's not just yesterday's story, and we know that. We know that all too well. And I don't know if it's dismay or anger, sorrow, fear, that the stories keep coming back. I know so many of us were impacted by what happened in D.C. earlier this week. I called my brother yesterday and then I called my cousin this afternoon. There was an event Tuesday night at the Capitol Jewish Museum. The Reform Synagogue has a good partnership there. They're one of the big Reform Synagogue in D.C. Washington Hebrew is there all the time. And this was an event for young Jewish diplomats. And my brother and I talked about how our cousin's not a diplomat, she's a do-gooder lawyer, but that's the kind of event that she would be at. I looked at the pictures of Sarah and Yaron, they're not my friends, but I lived in D.C. for 4 years. They could have or would have been my friends. People I know and love could or would have been at that event. And this is somehow the world that we live in. There is fair critique of the Israeli government, but anyone who thinks that critique of the Israeli government leads to this, the veil of their anti-Semitism is quite thin. At an event for young Jewish diplomats who were there, news reports say that was an event to bring the interfaith international community together to figure out how to get aid into Gaza. and the attacker shouting, we know what he shouted. The language that was used as he was put into custody. But that two young lives, Sarah Milgram from Overland Park, Kansas, grew up at a Reformed synagogue. Involved in her community, her parents go to shul every week. She was working on events for Pride. She was dedicated to finding peace amongst two peoples. Yaron, not Jewish, but came to Israel out of love for Jewish culture and identity, out of a desperate yearning and desire to bring interreligious conversation and the international community to finding peace. These two young staffers at the Israeli embassy, who now we mourn in this moment that feels impossible. It's not somewhere else in the world. It's not 1930s Europe. It's in Washington, D.C., on the street. And this week has been hard, doesn't even feel like the right word anymore. Trying to find the language for what this moment is like. I don't want to underreact to it. I'm afraid of those who are going to overreact to it and use this moment. But there are two young lives, reports say, set to be engaged, set to travel to Israel together, where they'd meet her, where they'd be with family, and he'd propose the dreams they had of the future they'd build together. And now this. And now this. Now we add Sarah and Yaron to our Kaddish list. We mark this as another in the long chain of moments. And what do we do with it? What do we do with it? Kind of have to sit for a little. That's the Jewish way. We sit in grief, not for too long, but we sit in the grief and we feel it. And I remember what my grandfather said at the very end of the interview for the Shoah Project. The interview said, "What do you want your grandchildren to know or to learn?" And when I watched it, I was in my 30s, but I kind of felt like an 8 or 9-year-old again, which is when he was interviewed. He said, "I want them to live in such a way that this will never happen again." I'm feeling that a little bit differently today. It's not just the rest of the world. It's how do we care for the well-being of the Jewish people? How do we... Tired of the word combat. It's too violent. I don't want violence. Kind of want to find language of treatment for the illness of hatred. Sometimes we use the metaphor of a wave, but a wave feels inevitable, and I don't want it to feel inevitable. How do we look hatred in the eye and find something different together? Zoe, as I read in my little green piece of paper, part of our job is to ensure that extremism doesn't become the way of our worlds. Whether it's a right-wing extremism or left-wing extremism or their extremism or that extreme, that when there is extremism and hatred that is allowed to find a foundation, that's allowed to bubble and grow, when we allow ourselves and each other to make the other into something less than human, when we allow governments or culture or language to descend, it's not just not it's not that it's not good for the Jewish people, that's not good for the world. And what I wrote as a munchkin, I was touched to see that I share some theology with that 13-year-old. God doesn't fix it. We don't ask God to come in and split the sea anymore. But maybe we turn there. We turn to God for strength or courage or resilience. The strength that we need to stand back up. The strength that we need to remain proud and unafraid. The strength that we need to live joyful, meaningful Jewish lives and not hide in our basement lighting our candles. Then we need to know who we are and live that thoughtfully and truly. To find pride and confidence in identity and allow that identity to be one that builds and strengthens the world around us, that builds a world of wholeness, compassion, and peace. I say those words a lot. I mean them from the depths of my soul. It's not Pollyannish, it's not naive, it's not floofy spiritual language that some rabbi said some long time ago. It's what I tell my kids so they know it and they live. It's what my grandparents told me. We mean it. As Leah said earlier, we come to our prayers not to just say the words, but to feel their meaning deeply so that we can know who we want to be when we leave. We say prayers of gratitude for love. We say prayers of hope for peace, not just to say the words, but to go out and build a world that reflects the words that we say in here. This is a hard and impossible moment. And for me, the Judaism that I love and that I practice is a Judaism of Sinai. It's a Judaism of mission and purpose. It's a Judaism of calling and of love and of community and of music. And it is a Judaism that will not be cowed by hate, that will not be forced into the shadows. It's a Judaism that will celebrate life and celebrate and hold hands with those who will march that path with us. Zoe, as we come to the end of a book of Torah, we say the words chazak, chazak, venit chazek. Be strong, and we shall be strengthened together. That strength that we talk about, that's not like who's got the biggest muscle strength. That's the strength that we cultivate through culture and tradition, identity, vision, and values and mission. It's the strength that we cultivate when we take hands with one another to know who we are. And when I am strong, and when you are strong, we are stronger together. We cannot and we will not stand alone in these moments. We will tap into history, into identity and vision and mission and purpose, and we will live proud Jewish lives to do the work that Sarah and Yaron set out to do, to build a world of wholeness, of kindness, of justice, and of peace. This moment is a broken-hearted moment. We can sit in that sorrow for a time, tend to our hearts and to the hearts of our loved ones. And when we're ready, we'll take hands and rise towards the joy, the mission, and the purpose of who we are as a people. Kain Yehi Ratzon, may these words be worthy of coming true.